Did you know that nearly half of all first-time heart attacks occur without any classic warning symptoms? No chest pain, no dizziness, no shortness of breath. Just a sudden life-changing, sometimes fatal event. This is why heart disease remains the leading cause of death worldwide, and blocked arteries are at the very core of that statistic. What makes this condition especially dangerous is its silent progression. The early warning signs of clogged arteries are often so subtle that people mistake them for everyday fatigue, stress, or simply getting older. By the time more obvious symptoms show up, such as severe chest discomfort or breathlessness, the arteries are often already critically narrowed. At that stage, the risk of heart attack, stroke, or sudden cardiac death is dramatically higher. This is why recognizing the early, hidden signals is not just important, it's potentially life-saving. Prevention doesn't just save money and effort. In the case of heart disease, it may save decades of your life. Let's look into 7 science-backed warning signs that your arteries may be blocked, starting with one that surprises most people: erectile dysfunction, ED. 1. Erectile dysfunction, ED. A silent early signal. Erectile dysfunction is often thought of as just a psychological or age-related issue, but research shows it can be one of the earliest red flags for cardiovascular disease. Why? Because the blood vessels in the penis are only 1 to 2 millimeters wide, compared to 3 to 4 millimeters in the coronary arteries. When plaque begins to build up in arteries, a process called atherosclerosis, the smaller vessels are the first to show problems. Multiple large-scale studies have confirmed this link. The Massachusetts Male Aging Study found that men with ED had a 45% higher risk of cardiovascular events compared to those without ED. A major study published in Circulation followed over 1,500 men and concluded that ED strongly predicts heart disease, even in otherwise healthy men. A meta-analysis of 36,000 men showed that ED increased the risk of cardiovascular disease by 48%, stroke by 46%, and premature death by nearly 20%. The biological explanation comes down to the endothelium, the inner lining of blood vessels. In healthy arteries, the endothelium produces nitric oxide, NO, a molecule that relaxes vessels and keeps blood flowing smoothly. In early atherosclerosis, oxidative stress damages this lining, reducing nitric oxide production. This makes vessels stiff and narrow, limiting blood flow. Since penile arteries are so small, they often fail first, sometimes years before a heart attack strikes. If you're under 50 and experiencing persistent ED that isn't clearly psychological, take it seriously. It could be your body's early warning that your heart is at risk. 2. Persistent, unexplained fatigue. We all get tired occasionally after a long day or a poor night's sleep. But when fatigue is persistent, disproportionate to activity, and unrelieved by rest, it can be a sign of clogged arteries. Here's why. When arteries are narrowed, they cannot deliver enough oxygen-rich blood to your muscles and organs during exertion. This leads to reduced perfusion, meaning your tissues are literally starving for oxygen. Instead of bouncing back after rest, your body continues to feel drained because the problem isn't sleep-related, it's circulation-related. Think of it like trying to water your lawn with a pinched garden hose. Water still flows, but not nearly enough to cover the area. That's what happens inside your body when plaque buildup restricts blood supply. Scientific evidence supports this. A Cleveland Clinic study found that patients with coronary artery disease often report fatigue as one of the very first symptoms, even before chest pain. A review of 7,000 patients revealed that unexplained fatigue during mild exertion was strongly linked to ischemic heart disease, particularly in women. This last point is crucial. Research shows that women are more likely to experience fatigue than chest pain as an early heart disease symptom. Many dismiss it as aging, stress, or anemia, but in reality, it could be their heart struggling to meet oxygen demands. If simple activities like climbing stairs or carrying groceries leave you unusually exhausted, it may not be just age. It could be your arteries waving a red flag. 3. Now, here's a warning sign that often slips under the radar. Leg pain while walking, medically known as claudication. If you notice that your legs start to cramp, ache, or feel unusually heavy after walking only a short distance, but the pain eases once you stop and rest, this is not just fatigue or aging. It's one of the clearest early markers of peripheral artery disease, PAD. PAD occurs when atherosclerosis, the same process that causes heart attacks, targets the arteries in your limbs, especially the legs. Here's what's really happening. When you walk, your leg muscles demand more oxygen. But if your arteries are narrowed or blocked by fatty plaque, oxygen delivery falls short. The mismatch between oxygen demand and supply creates pain, much like the chest pain of angina during a heart attack. In other words, claudication is your legs crying out for fuel, but the delivery lines are partially clogged. What's most concerning is that PAD isn't just a leg problem. It's often a window into your overall vascular health. Research shows that more than half of people with PAD also have coronary artery disease, meaning the same blockages restricting your leg circulation may also be restricting blood flow to your heart. A large study called the Partners Program found that about 1 in 20 adults over 50 has PAD, and the risk rises sharply with smoking, diabetes, or high cholesterol. The real danger? PAD often goes unnoticed. Many dismiss leg pain as arthritis, aging, or being out of shape. Yet, ignoring it is risky. Statistics reveal that people with PAD are 3 to 6 times more likely to die of heart-related causes than those without it. And by the time symptoms appear, significant arterial narrowing has usually already taken place. Early detection and treatment can literally save your life. If walking a few blocks leaves your legs cramping or fatigued, don't shrug it off. It could be your circulatory system sounding an alarm. 4. Now let's talk about another red flag: shortness of breath. Have you ever found yourself unusually winded after climbing stairs, carrying groceries, or walking at a pace that once felt effortless? It's easy to blame this on aging or low fitness, but persistent breathlessness during light activity can signal a much deeper issue: coronary artery disease, CAD. Here's the science. Narrowed coronary arteries limit oxygen-rich blood flow to your heart. During exertion, your heart has to pump harder to meet your body's demands. But when it can't keep up, the lungs and muscles become oxygen-starved. The result? Rapid, shallow breathing. Doctors call this impaired cardiac output. The heart is unable to pump enough blood with each beat, forcing your body to compensate by making you breathe faster. Surprisingly, research shows that shortness of breath often appears before chest pain in those with heart disease. For example, the Framingham Heart Study and other large cardiovascular trials identified unexplained breathlessness as a powerful predictor of future heart events, even in people without a prior diagnosis. What's more, younger adults with risk factors like hypertension, diabetes, or smoking sometimes report breathlessness as their very first symptom of vascular trouble. The danger lies in how easy it is to dismiss. You might think you're simply out of shape, but if mild exertion leaves you gasping for air, it could be your heart quietly struggling. Unlike chest pain, which grabs attention, breathlessness is subtle, but no less significant. 5. And speaking of chest pain, let's not overlook angina. Most people imagine heart pain as sudden and dramatic, like a movie scene where someone clutches their chest. But angina isn't always explosive. It can feel like pressure, squeezing, burning, or even mild discomfort that comes and goes with exertion. It's one of the most recognizable, but also most misunderstood, signals of blocked arteries. When most people think of heart problems, they picture sudden, crushing chest pain, like what you see in movies. But in reality, the early warning signs are often far more subtle, sneaky, and deceptively quiet. Take angina, for example. It doesn't always feel like an obvious stab in the chest. Instead, it can show up as pressure, tightness, heaviness, squeezing, or even a burning sensation. And here's the tricky part. It doesn't always stay in the chest. The discomfort can radiate to the shoulders, arms, neck, jaw, or even the back. Because of this, many people mistake angina for heartburn, indigestion, or even a pulled muscle. These symptoms usually appear during physical activity or emotional stress, moments when your heart is working harder and demands more oxygen. At rest, the discomfort often eases, which is a key clue that the issue is linked to blood flow. The root cause is ischemia, when part of the heart muscle isn't receiving enough oxygen-rich blood because the arteries supplying it have become narrowed or partially blocked by plaque buildup. Think of it like a traffic jam. The oxygen is trying to reach the heart, but congestion in the arteries prevents it from getting through fast enough. Research shows that angina is a strong predictor of coronary artery disease, CAD, and future heart attacks. In the US alone, nearly 9 million adults report symptoms consistent with angina, yet many go undiagnosed because their experience doesn't match the classic chest-clutching stereotype. Even more concerning is how often people dismiss these warning signs, chalking them up to stress, aging, or digestive problems. If you've ever felt chest pressure or tightness after climbing stairs, walking briskly, or during a stressful moment, and it disappears when you rest, don't ignore it. That could be your heart's way of warning you before something more serious happens. 6. Now, here's something most people don't realize. Not all angina feels the same, especially in women. One symptom that often gets overlooked is jaw, neck, or upper back pain. It might not seem logical at first, but this happens because of referred pain. The nerves that carry pain signals from the heart share pathways with nerves in the upper body. So instead of feeling pain directly in the chest, the brain interprets it as discomfort in the jaw, neck, shoulders, or even teeth. Multiple cardiovascular studies have shown that women are more likely than men to experience these non-classic symptoms. Unfortunately, this often leads to delayed diagnosis and treatment. According to the American Heart Association, women under 55 who present with these atypical symptoms are more likely to be misdiagnosed in emergency rooms compared to men. That delay can be deadly and contributes to higher mortality rates in younger women with heart disease. This is why awareness is critical. If you notice unexplained upper body discomfort, especially during exertion or emotional stress, that goes away with rest, take it seriously. You don't need dramatic chest pain to be having a heart issue. Sometimes the body whispers before it screams, and listening to those whispers might just save your life. 7. Finally, let's connect this to another silent red flag: resistant high blood pressure. If your blood pressure stays high despite multiple medications and healthy lifestyle changes, the problem may not just be bad genes or stress. Often it points to something structural: stiff or clogged arteries. When arteries are healthy, they're flexible and elastic, allowing blood to flow smoothly. But with atherosclerosis, plaque buildup inside the arteries, they lose that elasticity. This forces the heart to pump harder to push blood through, which drives blood pressure higher. Over time, this combination of narrowed arteries, oxygen-deprived heart muscle, and unchecked high blood pressure creates the perfect storm for a heart attack or stroke. Let's break down what's really happening inside your blood vessels. As arteries begin to narrow and stiffen, a process often driven by plaque buildup and loss of elasticity, the systemic vascular resistance rises. In simple terms, this means your heart has to pump against a much stronger opposing force, like pushing water through a kinked hose. Over time, this constant struggle forces blood pressure upward, creating what we call hypertension. But here's the key insight: hypertension isn't just a number your doctor reads off a cuff. It's a mechanical stress that actively damages the artery walls themselves. Each surge of blood under high pressure creates tiny injuries in the delicate inner lining of your arteries, called the endothelium. And when those microscopic injuries occur, the body responds by laying down more cholesterol, calcium, and inflammatory cells, fueling plaque growth. This sets up a vicious cycle. High blood pressure damages the arteries. Damaged arteries attract more plaque, and more plaque further raises blood pressure. Left unchecked, what begins as mild hypertension can progress to a much more dangerous state, dramatically raising your risk of heart attacks, strokes, kidney disease, and even vascular dementia. One particularly concerning form is resistant hypertension, defined as blood pressure that remains uncontrolled despite taking at least 3 different medications, including a diuretic. Research has shown that people with resistant hypertension often harbor undiagnosed vascular conditions such as renal artery stenosis, narrowing of the arteries supplying the kidneys, or widespread atherosclerosis throughout the body. In fact, the American Heart Association notes that these individuals are at significantly higher risk of cardiovascular events compared to those with well-controlled hypertension. This is where advanced diagnostic tools come into play. Routine blood pressure checks are useful, but they can't reveal the hidden structural damage inside your arteries. Imaging tests such as a coronary calcium scan, CT angiography, or arterial Doppler studies can uncover silent plaque buildup long before symptoms appear. If your blood pressure stays stubbornly high despite lifestyle changes and multiple medications, it's worth pushing for these tests. Don't accept bad genes as the only explanation. Your body may be signaling that something deeper is brewing. So, who should be paying closest attention? Certainly those over 40, People with a family history of heart disease, smokers, diabetics, the overweight or sedentary, and anyone living with chronic stress. But here's the sobering truth. Even younger adults are not immune. In recent years, cardiologists have reported a disturbing rise in heart attacks among people in their 30s and 40s. The bottom line is this. You don't need to wait for the dramatic warning signs, sirens, ambulances, and an ER visit to take action. The earliest stages of arterial disease are often silent, but not invisible if you know what to look for. By listening to your body, getting the right tests, and acting early, you can interrupt the cycle before it spirals into something life-threatening. Your arteries may already be whispering for help. The question is, are you listening? Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.